G'day and welcome back to the Fred Paul Show on ADH TV. It's been a long Christmas break for reasons that I'll get to soon. But first, let's explain why we here at ADH are excited about 2024. As you know, Australia is one of the freest and most prosperous nations in history. We're grateful to be living here, raising our families, hanging out at the beach, going to the footy and occasionally getting in scraps with the native fauna. And as a general rule, we are also grateful to those who died defending this country so we can live what is, by historical standards, an extraordinarily easy life. ADH has built a large audience from this demographic of grateful, patriotic people and will continue to grow as more of those people learn about us and about the powerful dark forces seeking to destroy our way of life. But there's another demographic that we are hoping to also attract this year. It's woke people. As I said, the forces that are seeking to destroy our civilization are formidable, but the positive message to start this year is that they are not infallible. In fact, many of their followers are simply not falling for it anymore. So here are 4 reasons why some of your woke friends or colleagues will be joining our side of the culture wars and defending the freedom and prosperity they too enjoy in 2024. 1. Identity politics will eat itself. Signing up to a victim group is all well and good until someone from a supposedly more deserving group comes along and trumps you. For example, the Me Too movement encouraged an entire generation of young women to see themselves as victims. Every critical comment from a male boss or flirty glance from a male colleague was seen as further proof of patriarchal domination. In a world where victimhood is a measure of status, they were briefly centre stage, hogging the limelight with their indignation about men oppressing women. But that victim status was always going to be trumped by the people of Gaza, whose deprivations in life are far more real. So when a bunch of barbaric Palestinian men break out of Gaza and rape and murder young women, what do the members of the Me Too movement do? Do they downplay the savagery as the excusable behaviour of people who are higher on the intersectionality hierarchy, as this woman did at a pro-Palestinian march in London last year?
How do you feel about what Hamas soldiers did to women like yourself on October 7?
It's not good. It's not like, the thing is.
Or do they realise that identity politics is a zero-sum game that can only be won by bloodthirsty rapists brandishing guns and machetes? Here's another example. We've all seen Aboriginal and Palestinian flags being waved alongside each other at protest marches these days. They've even blended their slogans into one handy phrase: from the river to the sea, always was, always will be, which is a charming mashup calling for the genocide of Israeli Jews and the destruction of modern Australia. But it's an alliance built on a contradiction. Indigenous protesters say their land has been colonised by white people. Whether that's true or not is debatable, but there is no doubt it's being colonised now. Have a look at this. This is one of the first methods by which migrant Muslims begin to establish their dominance. The message is, we might not respect your customs, but get used to respecting ours. Well, there's a word for that: colonialism. And smart Indigenous people can see that already. How tiring must it be for leftists to rationalise these double standards in their heads? Wouldn't it be a relief for them to abandon all this identity politics and just take people and circumstances on face value instead, like we do. Reason number 2, nobody can now deny that the COVID lockdowns and vaccines were an absolute catastrophic failure. It's now obvious that it was coordinated by big government, big tech, big media and big pharma to lock you in your home and jab you with extremely profitable experimental gene therapies. The anger as people wake up to this unconscionable, self-inflicted harm is going to be a major factor in politics this year, when there are significant elections in the United States, Britain, Canada and possibly in Australia. Here is a Scottish bloke called John Watt having a crack at British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak this week.
My name is John Watt and I'm one of the COVID vaccine injured in this country. I want you to look into my eyes, Rishi Sunak, and I want you to look at the pain, the trauma and the regret I have in my eyes. We have been left with no help at all. Not only am I in here that's vaccine injured, there's another man over there whose life's been ruined by that COVID-19 vaccine. I know people who have lost legs, amputations. I know people with heart conditions like myself, Rishi Sunak. Why have I had to set up a support group in Scotland to look after the people that have been affected by that COVID-19 vaccine?
And here is Sunak's mealy-mouthed response.
Now, obviously, if there are individual circumstances which haven't worked out, then that's why we have the compensation scheme in place, and I'll make sure that we follow up on your cases.
Now, if there's individual circumstances which haven't worked out, well, that is a politician's way of admitting that the so-called vaccines injured and killed people without actually saying it. But this contradicts what Sunak was saying 3 weeks ago. Here he is in the House of Commons on the 31st of January.
Broadly insinuating, let me be unequivocal from this dispatch box, that COVID vaccines are safe, Mr. Speaker.
It's now almost impossible for politicians anywhere to not look hypocritical about their policies regarding COVID lockdowns and vaccines. The mainstream media organisations that are starting to report this phenomenon are hoping you will forget that only 2 years ago they were lying to you about the vaccines being safe and effective as well. If they lied to you about that, what else are they lying to you about? That's not a trivial question, by the way. The same mainstream media organisations right now are banging the drums of war. Reason 3, Trump is back. He will win the Republican primary, and if he goes up against Joe Biden, will cruise back into the White House, most likely anyway. Leftists will have 2 options: lose their minds again, like they did in 2016, or they can quietly be relieved that prosperity and world peace are not so bad after all, and that Trump is the most likely person to deliver them. Here is ranting leftist comedian Michael Rappaport this week correcting a previous claim that Donald Trump sympathised with the KKK.
And I was wrong.
Yep, you were, but good on you, Michael. It's a sign of maturity and being a conservative, I might add, to admit that you've been wrong in the past. And reason 4. Spirituality is cool again. The Enlightenment, which began when Sir Francis Bacon declared knowledge is power in the late 16th century, ushered in centuries of prosperity and freedom. But it also made us hopelessly materialistic and even nihilistic. People are starting to realise that the human condition craves something transcendent, something beyond this world, that inspires us to aim higher than likes and shares on social media. And the most direct and satisfying way to achieve this is through Christianity. Don't take my word for it, just ask one of the world's most famous former libertines, Russell Brand.
I've been in recovery for 21 years. It's just in a sense, it's what enshrines and helps me practice my relationship with God. It's the most important thing to me. The thing I have to most be observant of and have to keenly avoid is descent into self-centeredness. Knowing that you are not God. You are not God. It's not about you. You have to have some purpose in your life.
And here's another Hollywood star, Shia LaBeouf, who was recently accepted into the Catholic Church. Jordan Peterson calls this the counter-enlightenment. It is the widespread realisation that humans need more than the material satisfaction that has fuelled the past 300 years. This is something that the establishment conservative media refuses to acknowledge, let alone celebrate. But at ADH, we do. So welcome to 2024 on ADH TV. It's going to be a great year. We took a long break over Christmas to do a bit of restructuring. As a result, you'll be seeing more shows from me, but they will be shorter and I won't always be in the studio. I'm planning to get out on the streets more, as I did in London last year, to report what's happening in the real world. So if you see me out and about, come up and say g'day. And bring on 2024. Let this year be the one where we begin to win the war against the dark forces of wokeness.